You don't belong here. Lady, this isn't your kind of bank. Try the check cashing joint down the street. Emily Harper, the manager of Pinnacle Financial's flagship branch in Atlanta's Peachtree Center, hurled the words with a venom that silenced the marble lobby. Her icy stare fixed on Lauren Carter, a black woman standing calmly at the teller counter, as if Lauren's presence in the sleek, glass-walled institution was a personal affront. Behind Emily, tellers Ryan Mitchell and Derek Walsh snickered, one muttering, "Yeah, she's got no business asking for that kind of money." The lobby's polished air grew heavy, customers turning to stare, some pulling out phones to record. Lauren's face remained composed, her posture unyielding, but the words cut deep, echoing the slights her mother endured as a bank teller in Birmingham decades ago. Emily's dismissal wasn't just a mistake. It was a declaration of who belonged in Pinnacle's world. What Emily didn't know was that Lauren wasn't just any customer. She was Pinnacle's CEO, and this moment would unravel careers, reshape an industry, and ignite a movement. Before we dive into the story, I want to know where you're watching from. Have you ever been judged before you could speak? Share your truth below. Hit follow if you stand for justice. And let's build a world where everyone belongs. This is about to get real. Lauren Carter, 45, stood at the counter, her navy hoodie and dark slacks deliberately understated, her natural hair pulled back in a neat bun. She'd handed teller Sophie Nguyen a withdrawal slip for $15,000, her ID and Pinnacle Platinum card beside it. To the staff, she was an anomaly, a black woman daring to demand a sum they couldn't fathom. But Lauren wasn't here by chance. As CEO of Pinnacle Financial, she'd uncovered data showing minority customers faced disproportionate scrutiny at her bank's branches. Today, she'd come to Atlanta's flagship branch, Incognito, to see the truth for herself before heading to the Global Finance Leadership Summit in New York. Pinnacle was also negotiating a $100 million contract with her AI firm, Nova Tech Solutions, to bolster cybersecurity, a deal now at risk if this branch's culture proved rotten. The lobby, with its soaring ceilings and modern art, was a shrine to wealth and power. Businessmen in tailored suits tapped at phones. While a young couple whispered near the ATM, Lauren had arrived at 9:15 a.m., taking a seat to observe. In 20 minutes, she'd seen a pattern: a white executive whisked to a private office, an Asian retiree curtly told to wait, a Latino man in work boots grilled for ID to cash a $200 check. Her heart sank. Memories of her mother, Clara, surfacing. Clara, who'd worked nights to fund Lauren's education, enduring customers who'd sneer. Get me someone who looks like they know money. Now, at Sophie's window. Lauren felt that same sting. Sophie, 24, a Vietnamese American with a nervous smile, had hesitated, her eyes flicking to the withdrawal amount. "This is a lot," she said, her voice low, as if Lauren's request was absurd. Sophie's hands shook, her mind flashing to her own mother, Lynn, fired from a bank job for a manager's mistake. Fear of losing her job kept Sophie compliant, but her gut twisted as she called Emily over. Emily Harper, 42, strode across the lobby, her heels clicking like a metronome. A 15-year veteran, she'd clawed her way up in a male-dominated industry, learning to play by unspoken rules, prioritize clients who fit the bank's image. To Emily, Lauren's hoodie and modest purse screamed outsider. "Ma'am," Emily said, her smile a thin veneer. $15,000 isn't something we hand out casually. What's it for?" The question, laced with condescension, hadn't been asked of a white customer withdrawing $2,000 an hour earlier. Lauren's eyes met Emily's, steady but piercing. "It's for my business," she said, sliding her platinum card forward. "My account is in order. Process it." Her tone was professional, but her pulse raced, her father's words. Don't let them define you. Steadying her, Emily's smile tightened, a flicker of unease beneath her arrogance. She'd grown up in suburban Roswell, Georgia, where her parents' country club whispered that wealth had a certain look. To her. That look wasn't Lauren. Ryan Mitchell, 34, leaned over from his desk, his former high school football swagger on display. Probably some scam, he muttered to Derek Walsh, 28, who smirked, his phone buzzing with X notifications from alt-right influencers he followed. Ryan, bitter since a knee injury ended his sports dreams, projected confidence to mask his dead-end career. Derek, addicted to online validation, saw Lauren as a chance to prove his place in the in crowd. Their laughter drew stares, the lobby now a theater of microaggressions. Sophie, caught in the crossfire, typed nervously, pulling Lauren's account. Her eyes widened. The balance was in the millions, but Emily's glare stopped her from speaking. There's an issue, Emily lied, her voice loud enough for the lobby to hear. We've had fraud with accounts like yours. You'll need to verify further. The phrase, like yours, hung heavy, coated with prejudice. Lauren's jaw tightened, but she held her ground, her Birmingham roots anchoring her. She thought of her mother's sacrifices, of customers like Javier Ortiz, a Latino entrepreneur denied a loan despite perfect credit, whose story had spurred her audit. Show me the policy, Lauren said, her voice calm but unyielding. She held up her ID, her card, and her dignity, daring Emily to escalate. Emily's face flushed, her control slipping. I'm the manager, she snapped, signaling to Ryan. Call security. Ryan nodded, his smirk fading as Lauren's composure unnerved him. Derek, twirling his pen, chimed in. Maybe she's laundering cash. You know how it is. The lobby gasped. A young black woman filming from the waiting area, her hands trembling with anger. Malik Johnson, the security guard, approached, his broad frame tense. At 26, he'd served in Savannah, Georgia, where he'd faced bias in uniform. Now, supporting his sister with leukemia. He needed this job. But Lauren's calm dignity stirred memories of his mother's advice. Stand for what's right, even when it costs you. He hesitated, his hand hovering near his radio. Ma'am, he said, his voice soft. Is there a problem? There's no problem, Lauren replied, her eyes locking with Malik's. I'm a customer with a valid request. They're refusing service without cause. Her words, deliberate, were for the cameras, hers and the bank's. She reached for her purse, her fingers brushing a leather notebook her mother had given her when she started at Columbia, inscribed with, Clear the path, Emily. Sensing her authority wane, leaned in, her voice a stage whisper. We serve a certain clientele here. You're making this harder than it needs to be. The lobby fell silent, the weight of her words exposing a truth Pinnacle had buried. Ryan and Derek exchanged uneasy glances. Sophie's hands froze on her keyboard, and Malik's jaw tightened, his moral compass shifting. Lauren's heart pounded, not with fear but with clarity. She thought of her father, dead at 40 from a factory accident, his voice urging her to fight. She thought of her climb, Harvard nights studying by flashlight, boardrooms where her ideas were dismissed, the vote that made her CEO despite whispers about her fit. This wasn't just about her. It was about every customer who'd been profiled, every employee like Sophie trapped in a toxic system. As Malik's radio crackled, Emily smirked, believing she'd won, but Lauren pulled out her phone, dialing Vanessa Brooks, her COO and friend since Columbia. Vanessa, she said, her voice steady. I'm at Peachtree Center. They've refused my withdrawal. I need you here. The call was a spark, and Pinnacle's world was about to ignite. The marble lobby of Pinnacle's flagship branch in Atlanta's Peachtree Center crackled with tension, the air thick as if holding its breath. Lauren Carter stood at the teller counter, her phone pressed to her ear, her voice steady as she spoke to Vanessa Brooks, Pinnacle's COO. "They've crossed the line," she said, her words slicing through the hum of whispered judgments. Around her, customers clutched their phones, recording the standoff, their faces a mix of shock and morbid curiosity. Emily Harper, the branch manager, stood rigid, her arms crossed, believing she'd quelled an intruder. She didn't know the woman she'd just told to try a check-cashing joint was Pinnacle's CEO, and the weight of that mistake was seconds from crashing down. Emily's heels tapped impatiently, her eyes narrowing as Lauren continued her call. "Ma'am," she said, her voice a venomous hiss, "you're disrupting our clients. Leave now, or security will remove you." Her words, meant to assert dominance, only deepened the grave she was digging. Behind her, Ryan Mitchell and Derek Walsh exchanged smirks, their earlier taunts. "Scam artist," "laundered money," still echoing in the lobby. Ryan, leaning against his desk, adjusted his tie, his swagger a shield for the insecurity that gnawed at him since his football dreams collapsed. Derek, scrolling X on his phone, fed off the moment, his online world reinforcing his belief that people like Lauren didn't belong. Sophie Nguyen, the young teller who'd first taken Lauren's $15,000 withdrawal slip, stood frozen, her hands trembling on the keyboard. Her mother's voice, Lynn, fired unjustly from a bank years ago, rang in her ears. "Keep your head down, Con!" But Sophie's gut churned, the memory of Lynn's shame clashing with the scene unfolding. She'd seen Lauren's account balance, millions, but Emily's glare had silenced her, now. As Lauren's calm defiance filled the room, Sophie felt a crack in her compliance, a flicker of guilt for her role in this injustice. Malik Johnson, the security guard, lingered near the counter, his broad frame tense. His radio crackled with Emily's earlier order to handle the situation, but he hadn't moved. Malik's time in Savannah, where he'd faced slurs in his army uniform, had taught him to read moments like this. Lauren's dignity, her refusal to shrink under Emily's scorn, stirred a memory of his mother's words. Right costs something, but wrong costs more. He glanced at the young black woman filming from the waiting area, her hands steady, her eyes fierce. Malik's hesitation wasn't fear. It was a choice, and he was leaning toward Lauren. Lauren lowered her phone, her gaze locking onto Emily's. "I've provided my ID, my card, and my request," she said, her voice a blade of reason. "If you're refusing service, state the policy, now." The challenge hung heavy, exposing Emily's flimsy pretext. Emily's face flushed, her lips thinning. She'd built her career on reading rooms, bending rules to favor clients who mirrored her Roswell upbringing. White, wealthy, connected, Lauren, in her hoodie and quiet power, was a threat to that order. "You're not a client we can serve," Emily snapped, her voice rising. "This bank has standards." The lobby gasped. The word standards, a dog whistle that landed like a slap. A middle-aged white man in a suit muttered, "Just get her out." His impatience a reflex, but the black woman filming shook her head, whispering to her friend, "This is why I left Pinnacle." Ryan stepped forward, his voice loud for the crowd. "Look, lady, you're holding up real business. Take the hint." Derek, emboldened, added, "What's next? Claiming you own the place." Their laughter was brittle, masking unease as Lauren's composure held firm. Sophie's hands clenched, her nails digging into her palms. She thought of Lynn, who'd cried for weeks after her firing, blamed for a manager's error. Sophie had promised to make her proud, but pride felt hollow now. She glanced at Lauren's ID on the counter. The name Lauren Carter tugging at a memory, a staff memo about the new CEO. Her breath caught, but Emily's voice cut through. "Sophie, call compliance. Flag this account for fraud." Sophie froze, her heart pounding. To obey was to betray herself. To speak was to risk everything. Malik's radio crackled again, but he ignored it, his eyes on Lauren. She reminded him of his sister, Aisha, fighting leukemia with quiet strength. He stepped closer, his voice low. "Ma'am, I need a reason to act. What's the issue?" Emily whirled on him. "Do your job. Malik, she's a disturbance." But Malik's stance didn't budge, his moral line drawn. The lobby's cameras, silent witnesses, captured every angle, the smirks, the glares, the growing crowd. Lauren's pulse raced, not from fear, but from purpose. She thought of her mother, Clara, who'd endured customers spitting slurs while balancing ledgers. She thought of her father, James, whose death at a steel mill had fueled her Harvard nights, coding by flashlight to escape Birmingham's limits. This moment wasn't just hers. It was for Javier Ortiz, whose loan was denied despite perfect credit, for Maya Patel, steered away from premium accounts for every customer Pinnacle had failed. She slipped her phone into her purse, her fingers brushing the notebook Clara had given her. Clear the path. The lobby doors burst open, the sound a thunderclap that silenced the room. Vanessa Brooks, Pinnacle's COO, stormed in, her tailored suit a contrast to the chaos. Her Nigerian roots had taught her to navigate corporate waters, but her loyalty to Lauren, forged at Columbia through late-night study sessions, burned fierce. Her eyes blazed as she scanned the scene. Emily's smug stance, Ryan's fading bravado, Derek's nervous fidgeting, Sophie's pale face, Malik's quiet defiance. Vanessa's voice rang out, sharp and unyielding. "Do you have any idea who this is?" Emily's smirk faltered, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. "She's a customer causing trouble," she said, but her voice wavered. Ryan's arms dropped, Derek's pen stilled, and Sophie's breath hitched. The memo's words, Lauren Carter, CEO, crystallizing in her mind. Vanessa stepped forward, her presence commanding. "This is Lauren Carter, your CEO. The woman you just accused of fraud runs this bank." The lobby erupted, gasps, murmurs, a phone dropping to the floor. Emily staggered, her hand clutching the counter, her Roswell-bred certainty collapsing. Ryan's face drained, his football swagger gone, replaced by the dread of a man who'd bet on the wrong side. Derek's phone slipped from his hand, his online bravado useless now. Sophie's knees buckled, tears welling as guilt and relief crashed over her. Malik's shoulders relaxed, a faint nod to Lauren. His choice validated, customers whispered, their videos capturing the moment Pinnacle's facade crumbled. The black woman filming smiled, her footage already uploading to X, where #PinnacleBias was gaining traction. Vanessa turned to Lauren, her voice softening. "I'm sorry you had to endure this," she said, her guilt for not shielding Lauren sooner etched in her eyes. Lauren nodded, her expression unreadable but resolute. In Pinnacle's headquarters, board members Henry Sullivan, Claire Bennett, and Alan Foster watched via security feeds, their faces ashen. Henry, haunted by his son's lost legacy, muttered, "How did we let this happen?" Claire, once blind to racial bias, felt her educator's heart break. Alan, regretting ignored complaints, knew the bank's survival was at stake. Lauren stepped forward, her voice low but seismic. "This ends now." Her words weren't just for Emily, they were for Pinnacle, for the industry, for a world that needed to change. The spark had caught, and the fire was spreading. The marble lobby of Pinnacle's flagship branch in Atlanta's Peachtree Center stood frozen, Lauren's declaration reverberating like a gavel. Customers clutched their phones, their videos capturing the moment Emily's smug facade crumbled. Her arms dropped, her heels scraping the floor as she staggered against the counter. The weight of Lauren's identity, Pinnacle's CEO, crushing her. Ryan Mitchell's swagger vanished, his tie suddenly tight, his eyes darting like a trapped animal. Derek Walsh's phone clattered to the ground, his online bravado useless against the real-world reckoning. Sophie Nguyen's hands covered her mouth, tears spilling as guilt and fear collided, her mother's unjust firing flashing before her. Malik Johnson, the security guard, stood taller, his quiet nod to Lauren a silent pledge of allegiance. Lauren's gaze swept the lobby, her presence commanding despite her navy hoodie. "Emily Harper, Ryan Mitchell, Derek Walsh," she said, her voice deliberate, each name a verdict. "You're terminated, effective immediately." The words landed like thunder, the lobby gasping as one. Emily's face drained, her Roswell-bred certainty shattered, her mind replaying every sneer, every coded jab. Check cashing joint. Standards. Ryan's shoulders slumped, his football star mask cracking, revealing a man adrift since his dreams died. Derek's hands shook, his X-fueled worldview collapsing, the realization dawning that his taunts had cost him everything. Malik stepped forward, his radio silent now, his Savannah-honed instincts guiding him. "This way," he said, gesturing to the back offices. Emily opened her mouth to protest, but Lauren's raised hand silenced her. "No appeals," Lauren said, her tone final. "Your actions violate Pinnacle's values and federal law. Collect your belongings and leave." Malik led the trio away, their footsteps echoing. A funeral march for their careers, customers whispered, some cheering softly, the black woman filming from the waiting area posting to X with hashtag Pinnacle bias, the video already at 500,000 views. Sophie Nguyen remained at her station, her knees trembling, expecting the axe to fall. She'd processed Lauren's withdrawal slip, seen the millions in her account, but stayed silent under Emily's glare. Now, her mother's voice, Lynn, broken by a bank's betrayal, screamed in her head. "Ms. Carter," Sophie choked out, tears streaming. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I should have." Her words faltered, her guilt raw. Lauren approached, her expression softening but firm, her Birmingham roots stirring memories of her mother, Clara, who'd taught her to see potential in the repentant. "Sophie," Lauren said, "you knew it was wrong. Why didn't you speak?" Sophie's breath hitched, her hands twisting. "I was scared," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "My mom lost her job for standing up. I needed this. For her. For my niece." Lauren's eyes narrowed, weighing Sophie's remorse against her complicity. "Fear's real," she said, "but silence enables. You get one chance to prove you're better than this. You're on probation. Step up, or you're out." Sophie nodded, her tears falling, a spark of resolve igniting. She thought of her niece, Lily, who deserved a world where courage trumped fear. Vanessa Brooks, Pinnacle's COO, stood by Lauren, her tablet streaming security footage. Her Nigerian fire burned beneath her tailored suit. Her loyalty to Lauren, forged through Columbia's late-night battles, driving her. "We've got it all," Vanessa said, her voice low, her guilt for not shielding Lauren sooner fueling her urgency. The footage was damning. A white executive withdrawing $2,000 with smiles, a Latino man grilled for $200, an Asian retiree ignored for 30 minutes. "It's not just them," Vanessa said, gesturing to the retreating trio. "It's a pattern." Lauren nodded, her mind on Javier Ortiz, whose loan denial had sparked her audit, and Maya Patel, whose premium account was dismissed, in Pinnacle's headquarters, 20 floors above downtown Atlanta. Board members Henry Sullivan, Claire Bennett, and Alan Foster watched the feeds, their faces ashen. Henry, his silver hair catching the light, gripped his chair, his son's death haunting his passivity. "This is our flagship," he muttered, his legacy crumbling. Claire, her educator's heart breaking, saw her blindness to racial bias laid bare. Alan, who'd buried employee complaints to protect profits, felt his regret surface, his hands clenching. "Stock's down 18%, Alan said, checking his phone. $4 billion gone?" Henry's voice hardened. "Get legal here, now." Vanessa's tablet buzzed. X posts surged. Hashtag Pinnacle bias hitting 12 million views. A tweet from Kevin Lynn, a former client, read, "Pinnacle rejected my business account for missing docs they never asked whites for. This is why." Lauren glanced at the screen, her resolve deepening. "Call an emergency board meeting," she told Vanessa. "Today, and pull every complaint, every exit survey, every email from this branch." Vanessa nodded, her fingers flying, her mind on their Columbia days, when Lauren's vision had inspired her. "We're exposing it all," Vanessa said, her voice fierce. The lobby stirred, customers lingering, their phones still rolling. The black woman filming approached Lauren, her voice steady. "I'm Aisha Thompson," she said, her eyes fierce. "I left Pinnacle last year. They flagged my account for suspicious activity after a $5,000 deposit. You're her, aren't you? The CEO?" Lauren met her gaze, seeing her mother's strength in Aisha. "I am," she said, "and I'm sorry. Your story matters." Aisha nodded, her video now at 2 million views, her courage amplifying Lauren's fight. Sophie, still at her station, overheard, her heart pounding. She thought of Lynn, who'd cried over lost wages, and Lily, who'd asked, "Why's Grandma sad?" Sophie's probation wasn't just a job, it was a chance to rewrite her family's story. She straightened, wiping her tears, her resolve hardening. Malik, returning from escorting Emily's team, caught Sophie's eye, a silent acknowledgement of their shared choice to stand with Lauren. His sister's hospital bills loomed, but his mother's words, "Right costs, but wrong destroys," guided him. Lauren turned to the lobby, her voice rising, clear and unyielding. "This branch failed you today," she said, addressing customers. "That failure stops here. Pinnacle exists to serve everyone. Equally, we're rebuilding, starting now." Her words, rooted in Clara's lessons and James's sacrifice, carried a promise. Customers nodded, some clapping, Aisha's camera capturing the moment. A white woman, who'd earlier muttered impatience, looked away, her discomfort a mirror of the bank's flaws. Vanessa's tablet flashed. Pinnacle's stock ticker bled red. Analysts predicting a $5 billion hit by close. "The board's assembling," Vanessa said, her voice urgent. "Henry's pushing for damage control, but Claire and Alan want reform." Lauren's jaw set, her mind on her Harvard nights, coding to escape Birmingham's limits. "No control," she said. "We're tearing it down to rebuild, right?" She thought of her father's steel mill, where safety failures cost lives, and vowed Pinnacle wouldn't fail its people. The lobby's cameras rolled, their lenses catching Lauren's resolve, Vanessa's fire, Sophie's redemption, Malik's courage, Emily, Ryan, and Derek, now in the back office, packed their lives into boxes, their silence heavy with shame. Emily's hands shook, her Roswell world shattered, Ryan's bravado gave way to despair, Derek's arrogance crumbled into fear. Lauren's phone buzzed. A text from Aisha. "Keep fighting! We're with you!" She looked out at the lobby, seeing Clara's face, James's strength, and the customers who deserved better. The fire was spreading, and Pinnacle's reckoning was just beginning. The marble lobby, once a stage for Emily Harper's prejudice, now hummed with a different energy. Customers lingered, their phones lowered but their eyes fixed on Lauren, Pinnacle's CEO, whose navy hoodie belied her authority. Vanessa Brooks, the COO, stood beside her, her tablet streaming data that painted a damning picture of the bank's failures. Sophie Nguyen, the teller spared from termination, wiped her tears, her probation a lifeline she clutched with trembling resolve. Malik Johnson, the security guard, returned from escorting the fired trio, Emily, Ryan Mitchell, and Derek Walsh, his quiet nod to Lauren a vow to protect this new dawn. But the lobby's cameras, silent and unblinking, reminded Lauren that exposure was only the first step. The system itself needed to burn and be rebuilt. Vanessa's voice cut through the hum. "The board's ready," she said, her Nigerian fire tempered by urgency. "They're in the war room, but Henry's pushing containment. Claire and Alan are wavering." Lauren's jaw set, her mind flashing to her Birmingham roots, where Clara balanced ledgers under slurs, and James died in a steel mill's neglect. "No containment," she said, her voice steel. "We're exposing every crack and fixing it." She handed Vanessa her phone, Aisha's text glowing. "Pull her account history. She's one of many. Javier Ortiz, Maya Patel, Kevin Lin. Their stories are our mandate." Vanessa nodded, her fingers flying, her Columbia days with Lauren fueling her drive to right this wrong. 20 floors above, in Pinnacle's headquarters, the boardroom was a pressure cooker. Henry Sullivan, the chairman, paced, his silver hair catching the light, his son's death a ghost urging him to salvage his legacy. Claire Bennett, her educator's heart raw, stared at the security feeds replaying Emily's sneers, her own blindness to racial bias a fresh wound. Alan Foster, his investor's instincts screaming losses, checked his phone, Pinnacle's stock down 20%, a $5 billion hemorrhage. "We need a statement," Henry said, his voice tight. "Apologize, settle quietly, move on." Claire shook her head, her voice soft but firm. "That's burying it. Lauren's right. This is systemic." Alan, haunted by ignored complaints, stayed silent, his regret a growing weight. Lauren and Vanessa entered the boardroom, the air shifting under their presence. Lauren's hoodie clashed with the mahogany and glass, a deliberate reminder of the customers Pinnacle had failed. She set a Novatech dossier on the table, its pages thick with data. Black and Latino customers faced tripled loan rejections. Asian clients waited 40% longer for service, and minority accounts flagged for fraud at 5 times the rate of white ones. "For 6 months," Lauren said, her voice measured but unyielding. "Novatech audited this bank. Mystery shoppers, Black, Latino, Asian, all with identical profiles, proved what our exit surveys hinted. Pinnacle's culture punishes difference." Henry's hands clenched, his legacy crumbling. "This is one branch," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Lauren slid an email across the table. Emily's words, dated 3 months prior. "Diversity training's a waste. Focus on clients who drive revenue." Claire gasped, her educator's ideals betrayed. Alan's face darkened, his silence broken. "I saw complaints like this," he admitted, his voice low. "I thought they were outliers." Lauren's eyes met his, not accusing but demanding. "Outliers don't cost $5 billion, she said, pointing to the stock ticker bleeding red on a screen. Vanessa clicked her tablet, projecting footage. Javier Ortiz, a Latino entrepreneur, denied a $10 million loan despite perfect credit. Maya Patel, an Indian-American engineer, steered from a platinum account. Kevin Lin, a Chinese-American tech founder, asked for non-existent documents. X posts flashed, hashtag Pinnacle bias at 25 million views. Javier's video of his rejected loan application trending globally. "These aren't numbers," Vanessa said, her voice fierce. "They're lives. Our $100 million Novatech contract hinges on trust. We break it if we hide this." Claire stood, her voice shaking. What's your plan? Lauren outlined it, a $60 million equity-first initiative, anti-bias training via Novatech's AI simulations, community audits, and equity-tied bonuses. We halt non-essential operations for 72 hours, she said, to retrain every employee, cost $200 million, but the cost of inaction is Pinnacle's soul. Henry balked, his investor's mind reeling. 72 hours? We'll lose clients. Lauren's gaze was unflinching. We've already lost them. Javier, Maya, Kevin, thousands. Rebuild trust starts with sacrifice. Alan leaned forward, his regret surfacing. And the fired trio? He asked. Legal risks? Lauren's voice was ice. They'll face DOJ scrutiny for discriminatory practices. We're cooperating fully. Sophie's probation, she added, was a test. If she leads equitably, she stays. Otherwise, she's out. Vanessa pulled up Sophie's file, noting her discomfort on the footage, a sign of potential. She's raw, Vanessa said. But she's teachable. Lauren nodded, thinking of Clara, who'd mentored young tellers despite their manager's scorn. Back in the lobby, Sophie stood at her counter, customers now approaching warily. Aisha Thompson, the activist whose video had sparked the firestorm, stayed behind, her laptop open. I'm compiling stories, Aisha said, her voice steady. Hundreds, black, brown, Asian, all say Pinnacle profiled them. Sophie listened, her guilt deepening, her niece Lily's face in her mind. I want to help, she said, her voice trembling but earnest. Aisha nodded, handing her a list. Start with outreach. Prove it. Sophie took it, her resolve to rewrite Lynn's story taking root. Malik, patrolling the lobby, overheard, his protective instincts stirring. His sister, Aisha, needed him, but so did this branch. He approached Lauren's security detail, offering to train guards in de-escalation. I saw right today, he said, his Savannah drawl firm. Let me help build it. Lauren, overhearing, nodded, seeing her father's quiet strength in Malik. The boardroom grew stifling, the weight of truth pressing down. Henry, his hands trembling, thought of his son, lost to a preventable accident, and saw his own failure to act. We back you, he said, his voice breaking. All in. Claire, tears in her eyes, added, This is bigger than us. Alan, his investor's mask gone, agreed. Do it right. Lauren's dossier became their blueprint, its data a call to arms. Vanessa's tablet buzzed. Analysts predicted a $6 billion market cap loss by morning, but hashtag Pinnacle bias posts showed support. Finally, a bank that listens. Lauren addressed the board, her voice a blend of Clara's grit and James's fire. Equity first isn't a fix. It's a foundation. Every branch, every teller, every loan officer answers to fairness now. She thought of her Harvard nights, coding to escape Birmingham's limits, and knew this was her purpose. The lobby's cameras rolled, capturing Sophie's tentative steps, Malik's quiet vigilance, and Aisha's fierce advocacy. Emily, Ryan, and Derek, now gone, faced a world where their actions followed them. Emily's Roswell pride shattered, Ryan's bravado gave way to despair, and Derek's online echo chambers offered no solace. Lauren returned to the lobby, her hoodie a symbol of the customers she served. Aisha approached, her eyes fierce. You're rebuilding? She asked. Lauren nodded, her voice firm. With you. If you'll join us? Aisha smiled, her video now at 5 million views, her voice amplifying the fight. The boardroom emptied, Henry, Claire, and Alan committing to oversight. Vanessa stayed, her tablet glowing with plans. We're rewriting Pinnacle, she said, her fire matching Lauren's. Lauren looked out at Atlanta's skyline, Clara's lessons and James's sacrifice guiding her. The reckoning was here, and Pinnacle would rise anew. 6 months after the firestorm at Pinnacle's flagship branch in Atlanta's Peachtree Center. The marble lobby bore scars of change. Murals of diverse faces adorned the walls, and signs in Spanish, Vietnamese, and Arabic promised equity first. Lauren stood at the counter, no longer in a navy hoodie but in a tailored blazer, her presence commanding as she reviewed Novatech's latest bias audit, the $60 million initiative she'd launched, anti-bias training, community outreach, equity-tied bonuses, had reshaped Pinnacle, but she knew transformation was fragile, a flame needing constant tending. The lobby hummed with cautious optimism. Customers moved through with ease, their interactions with tellers marked by respect, not scrutiny. Aisha Thompson, the activist whose video had sparked the crisis, now led Pinnacle's client equity board, her laptop open to testimonials from Javier Ortiz, Maya Patel, and Kevin Lin, whose stories drove reform. Complaints are down 70%, Aisha told Lauren, her voice fierce but hopeful. But we're watching. Every branch, every day, Lauren nodded, her Birmingham roots grounding her, Clara's endurance in her blood. Sophie Nguyen, now interim branch manager, stood behind the counter, her posture steady but her hands still trembling at times. Probation had been a crucible, forcing her to confront her silence during Lauren's humiliation. She'd spent nights studying Novatech's training, her mother Lynn's unjust firing a constant spur. "Ms. Carter," Sophie said, handing over a report. "Our equity metrics hit 90% last quarter." Her voice held pride, but her eyes sought approval, her niece Lily's future tied to her redemption. Lauren scanned the data. Minority clients served 40% faster, loan approvals up 25%, and met Sophie's gaze. "You're leading," she said, "but don't stop learning." Sophie nodded. Lynn's strength in her resolve. Malik Johnson, now heading Pinnacle's security training, patrolled the lobby, his Savannah drawl softening as he greeted customers. His decision to stand with Lauren had cost him sleep, his sister Aisha's hospital bills looming. But it earned him purpose. He'd developed de-escalation modules, teaching guards to question bias, his army days informing his clarity. "We're not just protecting assets," he told a trainee. "We're protecting people," Lauren overheard, seeing her father James's quiet courage in Malik, and offered a nod. Her trust earned. Vanessa Brooks, Pinnacle's COO, joined Lauren, her tablet flashing industry news. The Department of Banking's new rules, disparity reporting, mandatory audits, cite your work, she said, her Nigerian fire undimmed. "Delta and Wells Fargo are scrambling to match us." Pinnacle's stock had stabilized, up 5% from its $6 billion plunge, but Vanessa's eyes held concern. "You're pushing hard. Lauren, rest." Lauren smiled faintly, her Harvard nights of relentless coding echoing in her fatigue. "Not yet," she said, Clara's voice urging her on. "Rest when the path's clear." In a Decatur warehouse, Ryan Mitchell stacked boxes, his once polished tie replaced by a sweat-stained shirt. His firing had stripped his bravado, exposing a man lost since his football dreams died. Night's journaling brought clarity. He'd mocked Lauren to feel powerful, a reflex born of failure. He'd started a job program for ex-inmates, his redemption tentative, his old swagger humbled. Derek Walsh, meanwhile, sat in a Marietta community center, attending a bias workshop, his ex-echo chambers silent. He faced his role in Lauren's ordeal, his sneers a mask for insecurity, speaking to teens about prejudice. He faltered but persisted, his worldview shifting, slow but real. Emily Harper, exiled to Roswell's shadows, avoided public eyes. Her career's end had shattered her. Her prejudice laid bare. A $5,000 donation to Aisha's equity fund, anonymous but traced, hinted at introspection, But Lauren heard of it and felt no need to engage. Her fight was with systems, not souls, though Emily's reckoning was her own to bear. At Pinnacle's headquarters, board members Henry Sullivan, Claire Bennett, and Alan Foster oversaw reforms. Henry. His son's loss, a lingering ache, tied his legacy to equity, funding community banks. Claire. Her educator's heart awakened, studied civil rights history, her advocacy fierce. Alan, once profit-driven, championed transparency, his ignored complaints a lesson learned. Their boardroom, once a fortress of denial, now echoed Lauren's vision, their oversight rigorous. Lauren prepared for her keynote at the Global Finance Leadership Summit in New York. Her $100 million Novatech contract now a model for ethical AI. Fatigue pressed her. But Aisha's latest post, 10 million views, praising Pinnacle's change, lifted her. She thought of Javier, whose loan funded a thriving bakery, Maya, now a platinum client, Kevin, whose tech firm banked with Pinnacle again. Their trust was her fuel, Clara's sacrifices her fire. Sophie approached, her report complete. I reached out to Aisha's list, she said, her voice steadier. 10 clients returned. Lauren saw Lynn's resilience in her, and Clara's mentorship. Keep listening, she said. They'll show you the way. Sophie nodded, her niece's smile in her mind, her path clearer. Malik, finishing his rounds, paused by a mural of a black family banking together. His sister's recovery, slow but steady, gave him hope. He'd named his training program Stand Right after his mother's words. And Lauren's approval meant more than his paycheck. Vanessa, watching, texted Lauren, You're building a legacy. Lauren replied, We all are. Pinnacle's reforms rippled outward. The industry, stung by #Pinnacle bias, adopted equity metrics, fearing Lauren's spotlight. Delta's CEO called, seeking Novatech's training. Wells Fargo announced a $50 million fund, trailing Pinnacle's lead. Lauren knew change was fragile. Systems resisted, hearts hardened, but she saw roots growing, nurtured by accountability, in New York. Lauren stood backstage, her speech ready. A young black intern approached, her voice shy. I'm studying finance because of you, she said. Lauren smiled, handing her a card. Call me. The path's open. She thought of James, his steel mill hands, and Clara, her ledger-stained fingers, their sacrifices alive in this moment. The lobby's cameras rolled, capturing Sophie's growth, Malik's vigilance, Aisha's advocacy. Pinnacle wasn't perfect. Change never is. But it was moving, its soul reclaimed. Lauren stepped toward the exit, her blazer catching the light. Atlanta's skyline a promise. The fight wasn't over, but the flame was strong, and Pinnacle was rising. 1 year after the seismic clash that exposed Pinnacle's flaws, the lobby was a beacon of transformation. Vibrant murals celebrated diversity, and a digital ticker displayed real-time equity metrics. 85% customer satisfaction across all demographics. Loan approvals for minority-owned businesses up 30%. Lauren, now preparing for a Senate banking panel in Washington. D.C. stood near the counter, her eyes scanning a Novatech report, her $60 million Equity First initiative, anti-bias training, community audits, and accountability systems, had not only saved Pinnacle but set a national standard. Its $100 million Novatech contract a model for ethical innovation. Yet, her Birmingham roots, steeped in Clara's grit and James's sacrifice, reminded her justice was a journey, not a finish line. Aisha Thompson, the activist whose viral video had ignited the reckoning, approached with a tablet. Our Client Equity Board's report is live, she said, her voice fierce. Javier Ortiz, Maya Patel, and Kevin Lynn, once victims of Pinnacle's bias, had shaped policies that brought 5,000 minority clients back. Javier's bakery chain just signed with us, Aisha added, her eyes bright. Lauren nodded, seeing her mother Clara's resilience in Aisha's fight, and handed her a Senate invite. "Testify with me," she said. Aisha's smile was steel, her 15 million ex-followers amplifying Pinnacle's change. Sophie Nguyen, now permanent branch manager, oversaw a diverse team, her once trembling hands steady as she mentored a new teller, her redemption, earned through nights studying equity protocols, honored her mother Lynn's unjust firing. "Ms. Carter," Sophie said, presenting a community outreach plan. "We're funding 50 minority startups." Her voice held pride. Her niece Lily's dream, a tech career, driving her. Lauren scanned the plan, her mentorship echoing Clara's. "Push harder," she said, her tone warm but firm. "They need more than funds, they need trust." Sophie nodded, her path clear, Lynn's strength alive in her. Malik Johnson, leading Pinnacle's national security training, paused by a mural of a black family banking together. His Stand Right program, named for his mother's wisdom, had trained 2,000 guards to challenge bias, his sister Aisha's recovery fueling his purpose. He approached Lauren, his Savannah drawl soft. "Our de-escalation modules are in Delta's branches now," he said. Lauren saw her father James's quiet courage in him. "You're changing more than Pinnacle," she said. Her nod a bond forged in shared conviction. Vanessa Brooks, Pinnacle's COO, joined them, her tablet flashing industry headlines, Pinnacle's equity metrics reshape banking. Her Nigerian fire burned bright, her Columbia bond with Lauren unbreakable. "The Senate's watching," she said, her voice urgent. "They want your model federalized." Pinnacle's stock, now 10% above pre-crisis levels, reflected trust regained, but Vanessa's eyes held concern. "You're carrying the world," she said. Lauren smiled, her Harvard nights of relentless coding in her bones. "We all are," she said, Clara's voice echoing, "Clear the path," across Atlanta. Ryan Mitchell volunteered at a job program. His warehouse shifts a humbling contrast to his teller days. Journaling had unearthed his pain, mocking Lauren to mask his lost dreams. His program, aiding 100 ex-inmates, was his atonement, his swagger replaced by quiet purpose. Derek Walsh, speaking at a Marietta school, shared his fall, his ex-echo chambers abandoned. His workshops reached 500 teens, his prejudice a lesson he taught against, his redemption a slow climb. Emily Harper, in Roswell's shadows, remained distant, her $1,000 donation to Aisha's fund a silent gesture. Lauren, informed by Vanessa, let it pass. Her fight was systemic, not personal. At Pinnacle's headquarters, Henry Sullivan, Claire Bennett, and Alan Foster finalized an equity endowment, their oversight rigorous. Henry, retiring, funded 10 community banks, his son's loss a spur to legacy. Claire, now a civil rights advocate, lectured at universities, her blindness undone. Alan, transparent to a fault, ensured every complaint reached the board, his regrets buried in action. Their transformation, sparked by Lauren, was Pinnacle's backbone. Lauren boarded a flight to D.C., her Senate testimony a call for national banking reform, a black teen, clutching a tablet with Lauren's Forbes cover. Approached. "I'm coding because of you," she said, her eyes bright. Lauren knelt, handing her a Novatech card. "Start now," she said, James's steel mill hands in her voice. The teen's mother, teary, whispered, "Thank you." Lauren felt Clara's presence, her ledger-stained fingers guiding her. Pinnacle's lobby thrived, Sophie's leadership, Malik's vigilance, and Aisha's advocacy its pulse. The industry, reshaped by Lauren's model, adopted equity audits, Delta and Wells Fargo trailing. Lauren's New Dawn program, mentoring 500 employees like Sophie, blended accountability with hope, its roots deep. As her plane climbed, Lauren saw Atlanta's skyline fade, Clara's lessons and James's sacrifice her compass. Her legacy wasn't in stock tickers or headlines. It was in Javier's bakery, Maya's platinum account, Kevin's trust, the teen's code. The flame was fierce, and Pinnacle's rise was just the start, if this story moved you. Have you seen change rise from injustice? Share your story below. Hit follow for progress, and join us to build a fairer world. Let's keep pushing. Together, we'll make history.